She wore a sparkling dress and carried the world's gaze. But behind the glamour was a story no one dared to tell. They called her Wonder Woman, and for millions, that's exactly what she seemed to be. Fearless, radiant, untouchable. But how many people ever stopped to wonder what it cost to wear that golden lasso and smile through the pain? How many really knew the kind of wounds that were never written into scripts, never shown on screen, and never healed by applause? Lynda Carter's story isn't the kind that fits neatly into the typical Hollywood narrative of rise, fall, and redemption. It's not a tale bathed in glitter and wrapped in a happy ending. It's raw. It's quiet in places and explosive in others. And for far too long, it was silenced by fear, control, and betrayal. Before she became the icon in the red boots, Lynda was a young woman full of hope, crowned Miss USA at just 21, believing in possibilities and promises. She thought beauty would open doors, but she never imagined how quickly that same beauty would be weaponized against her. From her very first auditions, Lynda faced choices no one should have to make. She was asked, no, pressured, to undress, not for a role, but for a director's private satisfaction. Told to stand in a nightgown in a secluded room. Her refusal cost her the part. That moment was only the beginning of what would become a long pattern of punishments for simply saying no. Her boundaries were labeled as difficult. Her strength was branded as attitude. When she protected her dignity, the industry twisted it into scandal. And this wasn't a one-time cruelty. It became the way she was handled, commodified, and managed from every angle. The most painful betrayal came wrapped in the disguise of love and loyalty. Ron Samuels, her first husband and personal manager, presented himself as her biggest supporter. But behind closed doors, he took control of everything. Her calls, her money, even her movements. He monitored her life like a security detail, not out of love, but out of obsession and the need for dominance. He placed trackers in their home. He made sure she couldn't speak freely. To the world, they looked like the perfect power couple. In reality, she was living inside a glass case, expected to smile, stay pretty, and never question his authority. When she finally found the strength to walk away, it wasn't just her marriage that collapsed. It was her entire career. Doors slammed shut. Rumors flew. And many of those whispers could be traced back to Ron himself, bitter and determined to keep punishing her even after she'd left. On set, things weren't much better. Lyle Waggoner, her co-star in Wonder Woman, played the charming sidekick on camera. But when the cameras stopped rolling, he was anything but kind. His remarks were cruel, often sexist, and designed to make her feel small. And no one stepped in to stop him. If Lynda voiced discomfort, she was told she was overreacting. If she stood up for herself, it was labeled as drama. The production staff tolerated it. Some even encouraged it. Her pain became a joke. Her professionalism was dismissed. And the show that made her a household name also became the stage for some of her loneliest, most humiliating moments. Then came Robert Altman. He was her second husband, a high-profile attorney who promised a fresh start. And for a while, it looked like Lynda had finally found safety. They lived in a beautiful home. They were seen at glamorous events. But inside that world, Lynda was unraveling again. Robert buried himself in risky financial schemes. And when his involvement in the BCCI banking scandal exploded, it wasn't just his reputation on the line, it was hers, too. She hadn't been part of the crimes, but the media didn't care. Suddenly, she was treated like a co-conspirator, dragged through headlines and courtrooms, abandoned by people who once called her a friend. The shame wasn't hers, but she carried it anyway. The pressure, the judgment, the fear, it pushed her to the edge. Alcohol became her way to escape, to numb, to disappear. She nearly succeeded, until a call from her son pulled her back from the brink. That call saved her life, and forced her to face everything she'd tried to bury. Just when she thought she could rebuild, another betrayal came dressed as opportunity. Gary Goddard, a respected TV creator, approached her with promises of a comeback. Lynda was ready. She still believed in her talent, in the idea that maybe, just maybe, she could return to the screen with dignity. But those promises quickly turned sinister. Late-night messages. Uncomfortable dinners. And then the final blow. A contract implying that sex was part of the deal. Lynda refused. She stood firm. And just like that, the offer was gone. She was never mentioned in the wave of women who later came forward about Goddard, but her story matched the pattern. Manipulation. Coercion. Punishment for saying no. The last betrayal wasn't physical or professional. It was emotional. David Burney, a man she thought understood her artistic soul, turned out to be another user in disguise. He wooed her with letters, words she clung to in a world that had become so cold. But those letters weren't just for her. They were copies, sent to others. His love wasn't love at all. It was strategy. A move to ride her fame back into television. When Lynda found out, it wasn't just heartbreak. It was confirmation that even vulnerability could be weaponized. That even sincerity was something others saw as a tool to be used against her. For decades, Lynda Carter kept all of this hidden. She smiled when asked about her past. She answered questions with grace. She wore the costume and played the part, long after the cameras stopped rolling. But silence doesn't mean peace. It often means survival. She stayed quiet not out of weakness, but because she knew what happened to women who told the truth in a world that didn't want to hear it. She watched other women be dismissed, torn apart, forgotten. And she chose to protect herself the only way she could, by locking the truth away. Now, at 74, she's finally ready to speak. And she's naming names, not to seek revenge, but to reclaim her story. To say, this is what happened. This is who did it. And I am not ashamed. She's telling the truth so that other women don't have to wait as long. So they know they're not alone. So the people who hide behind power and charm can't keep doing it unchecked. Lynda's story isn't just personal. It's systemic. It speaks to how Hollywood treats women. How it silences them. How it breaks them down piece by piece, then punishes them for falling apart. Her pain wasn't an accident. It was designed, allowed, and protected by the very systems that celebrated her image while ignoring her humanity. She wasn't a diva. She wasn't dramatic. She was simply trying to survive in a world that saw her as a product instead of a person. And through every betrayal, every humiliation, every moment of despair, she held on to one thing, her voice. It took decades to use it, but now that she has, it's impossible to ignore. Her story shows that not all abuse leaves bruises. Some wounds are invisible. Some scars are etched into the soul. But they are no less real. And they deserve to be heard. There's something painfully poetic about the fact that she played Wonder Woman. A character known for strength, truth, and justice. And while the character had a magic lasso and superpowers, Lynda Carter had something even more powerful. Resilience. She lived through things most people couldn't imagine. She fought battles no one applauded. She saved herself, not with a cape, but with courage. This isn't a story about revenge. It's about truth. It's about reclaiming dignity. It's about refusing to let others define your narrative. And it's a call to action, not just for the industry, but for all of us, to believe women, to listen when they speak, and to make sure no one else has to wait 50 years to be heard. If Lynda's voice has moved you, if her strength has reminded you of how important it is to stand up against injustice, then show your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us as we continue to tell the stories that matter. The ones hidden behind fame, behind smiles, behind silence. Because the truth deserves a spotlight too.